Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Trans Talk Hub podcast. I'm your host, Alyssa, alongside our co-host, Braxton.
What's up, everybody?
Welcome, welcome. And today we're going to talk about trans in management. We are both people who are and was in management. And the reason why we're talking about this today is because I hear too many trans people, especially like with their job or getting into a job where they say like, oh, I'll never be able to get into a management position because I'm trans. And then they fear monger a bunch of people into thinking that just because you're trans, you'll never be able to make it into like a management position. So I think it's going to be a good topic today. We've got some really exciting stuff to go over, and we've got a video to watch from somebody that I currently work with who is going to share their thoughts on me being in management, which would be exciting. But yeah, I guess before we get into that, though, I'm just kind of curious, like on your take on that and how you feel when you hear these other trans people talk about, you know, how hard it is to get in management or how it's not possible to get in management. I'm just
Right.
curious on your take on that.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. The whole thing, whether you're talking about getting into management or you think that it's just hard for you to get a job because you're trans. I see a lot of TikToks where they say that they were fired because they were trans, or they can't get the job and were denied the job because they were trans. And there's not really ever any proof. It's just a hunch that this person might have, which I think says a lot about where they're at. And I feel for them. You know, there's definitely some insecurity and some confidence issues going on. I've been there. It's not lost on me. But I've had many jobs, been hired at many jobs. I'm really, really good at interviewing because I've had so much practice in it at this point. And not to say that I'm like a bad employee and I get fired or anything. I just have standards, and I won't work for places where any type of harassment's going on or it's unsanitary, things like that. So I've left a lot of places and had to find new jobs to support myself. So I've had several jobs, and it's not that hard. It's really not that hard. It's just a matter of doing it, a matter of being willing to step up and get it, especially when you are talking about management. Like, you just have to be willing and you got to prove yourself. Like, I don't feel like when I got into any of the management positions I've been in that it was, I had this unfair advantage because I was trans, or that I was going to be left out because I was trans. If anything, like, it made me want to prove myself that much more. And I did every time. Like, I can run a business. I can manage the shit out of people. Like, and all the while, like, building relationships with these people, and it not just being that, oh, I'm your manager, so I'm the boss, and I get this big head about it. I think because I do feel like I have to prove myself sometimes, or whatever the case might be, that I'm not that way about being in management at all. And I think that helps. I'm just very realistic about it, and the same as any other person. Like, that it's no different than me and the cis man that's also going for the position. As long as you fit the job, you're probably going to get it. And there's been several instances where it has been a cis person that I'm up against for the position, and I've gotten it. So I think a lot of that's just in their heads. It's just made up. They like to believe whatever they hear on TikTok and run off with it. And sometimes I think it's an excuse because they don't want to do work. I think there's many things going on in that realm, but at the end of the day, it's really not that hard. If you have the skill set and the mindset and you're willing and able to do it, then you can get a job, trans or not.
Absolutely, I agree with you. I think a lot of that is like, do you really want the job, or are you trying to use this as a reason so you don't get a job and then everyone feels bad for you?
Correct.
Or you're like, well, because I'm trans, I have to go get government assistance and all of these things because I can't do it. Or they use some sort of scapegoat, like, oh, my
Right.
depression because I'm trans or whatever, and now I have to now I have to go get this assistance. I can't work. It's too depressing.
Time blindness.
Exactly. Like, it's all of those things, and they start to stack up. And it's like, I'll be honest, when I got into my current management position, which I've had for, I would say, a little over 2 years at this point. I won't say the direct company that I work for, but I will say that the company I work for, they have like contracts, and one of the contracts that I have is the Airbnb contract. So I'm a team coordinator at Airbnb through another company. But anyway, I will say that when I got the position, I wasn't transitioning, but I can honestly say, and all of my team agrees with me because I brought this up the other day, like if I was trans during that process, it really wouldn't have made a difference. Now, for
No,
me, I'll be honest, I was a little bit in my head, and I knew I was going to transition, but I was kind of waiting to like fill out the environment a little bit.
right,
And it's like, even then, if you're going that route, I mean, sure, maybe fill it out. Like, see, kind of take people's, like, I don't know, like how they react to certain things or whatever, and take that into account. But for me, I kind of like dove in after a good amount of time. I was like, look, this is me. I'm already here. So,
right.
what are you going to do? Like, I mean, it was kind of like that kind of thing for me. But regardless, like, I don't like the fear mongering that people try to do, because it's not right. And I don't know. Like, you can show, dependent on like how you work. I mean, I worked my ass off for 2 years before I even got to my
Hmm.
management position. And I proved that after everybody kept dropping off the team, who stayed?
Yep,
Who didn't call in? Who
yep.
did all these things that a normal, like any work environment, would ask you to do? They would ask you
Correct.
to
Yeah,
not call in. They would ask you to show up and do your job. And if they need you, you're there. Like, I did all of those things. And so I think as long as you do all of that and you're willing to do all of that, first of all, then you'll see some success.
very much so. Oh yeah, absolutely. It just doesn't matter, you know. Like I said, as long as you've got the skill set, you can interview well, you know how to sell yourself, you're good. You know, you show up, you do the job, you go home. It's not that deep, you know. I get that it sucks that, I think the argument I hear a lot is that, we live in this system and, fuck the system and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, sure, I'm all for it. I totally get what you're saying. However, you're still living within that system. Like, you still have to survive, right? So are you going to allow it to sweep you into the current and be taken under? Or are you going to rise above it, and say, yeah, fuck the system, by I'm going to win, right? I'm going to work my ass off and do what I have to, sure, and then I'm going to rise above it, right? When you work hard, I mean, obviously, you make more money, you've got more opportunities, more people are paying attention to you. You learn so much more that you can then go. Even if you're, let's say, I've managed restaurants for a long time. Even in managing restaurants, I can take everything that I've learned from that and apply it to everything that I'm planning on doing in my future, whether it be in sound design or what we do with the podcast or any of our future projects. Doesn't matter what it is, I can apply all of that to that. You just got to keep learning and keep growing, and that's part of it. I think that you kind of have to make your own system within the system, if that makes sense, so that you can get through it. Because sure, it sucks. I'm not super fond of the way that things are set up by any means, but I also know I can't change it, at least not on my own. And at this point, none of us could seem to work together, so that's not going to happen anytime soon. So I'm going to take care of me, myself, and I think that's what people need to be mindful of. I think if these people, especially trans people, that think that getting a job is so hard or whatever, you're not worried about you. You're worried about what everybody else thinks, clearly, and you already have it predetermined in your head. It's taking that much control over you, and then you rob yourself of so much experience and relationships or whatever it might be that comes from getting that job. So I don't know. It's just sad to watch. It's truly. It's just, I don't know. Maybe I was just raised different. I was raised in the South. My stepdad was in the Marines. My dad was in the Navy. So discipline has always been like a thing. But not always. I fell off. I was a stupid teenager. I did dumb shit, but then I got right back to it. So it's just, I don't. There's not an excuse for it. There's just not an excuse. Grow up, work hard, earn what you got, mind your business.
Yeah, I do think some of it does have to do with how you were raised. I mean, my parents have always like worked a job. Like, my dad makes good enough money that my mom doesn't have to work, but she still does,
Right.
because that's how it
It's a
is. She
principle.
wants to work. She
Yep.
wants to do something for herself. She doesn't want to depend on my dad, which is respectable.
It's
And
smart.
so basically, that, being raised under that, like, you have the same work ethic. And I think that's how I got into management. And I think also, somebody might say like, oh, well, you got into it, before you transition, whatever. It's like, okay, but like at the same time, if a company really wanted to get rid of me because I was trans, they could have did it immediately. They could
Sure.
have found a
Yep.
little something. Oh,
Yep.
Alyssa messed up here. Alyssa messed up there. You know what I
Yep.
mean? Now, to be fair, I work really hard and I lessen the chance of that happening, and it hasn't happened.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the whole thing that these people are missing. It That's accountability is what that is. And that's what we are lacking as a whole in this community. And it's in this topic specifically, it's so incredibly clear that that's what the issue is, because you're not taking accountability for your own shit. I'm I don't want people to even have that out, right? Or to be able to explore that avenue. So I'm not going to give them a way to. I bust my ass. I show up. I don't call out. I go above and beyond. I take care of my staff. I have relationships and connections with them. It's not that hard to do. You can save your own ass, but it does take work, and it takes holding yourself accountable, recognizing your own shortcomings, and how do I get past that and better myself from that, and not being lazy, and not, just being so opposed to doing the work that you just fall behind the crowd, and then it's the crowd's fault that you fell behind. That's crazy. Y'all are crazy.
That is crazy. And it's just like any other job for anybody, no matter like, cis, trans, or not. It doesn't matter. You have to work hard.
Yeah.
Like I've had days where I've cried my eyes out because I had a really rough day.
Yeah.
Maybe I had 4 or 5 soup calls in a day,
Hmm.
and taking those calls, maybe they were rough. Maybe I was back to back. And by the end of the day, I'm just crying because I'm like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed,
Yeah. Been
but
there.
then you shake it off and you go back in the next day like it's a new day and nothing ever happened the day before. That's how you do it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. You just keep on trucking. It sucks. I mean, and it's not to say that, you shouldn't put your mental health first. I've done that several times. I just did that. You're well aware of this. I was working a really shitty job that was just beating me down, and it was me against a whole team of people who had already been there. I came in as a general manager, and there wasn't a lot of collaboration happening whatsoever. So it was just me constantly trying to get things in order, while when I wasn't there, things were getting out of order. And it was a lot of other things as well, just the way that the company decided to run things, the labor that they allowed. Like, it was just a lot. And I remember getting in my car and breaking down and crying and calling my wife and just bawling and calling my mom. And what do I do? Like, I feel like I'm failing, like I'm not resilient enough, like I'm not strong enough. And they're like, no, 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 no. That's not on you. You show up every day. You're still doing what you need to do. If nobody else wants to get on board with that, your upper management doesn't want to support you, you're alone in that, then you've done all you can do. You have to take care of your mental health. So I don't want this to be misconstrued as like you just got to tough through it. Like, there are instances, right? But I only reached the conclusion that it was time to leave that job after I analyzed every last thing that I had done, every last instance of my involvement in making my own self miserable, or the possibility of me making my own self miserable. And when I realized, no, I've done everything that I possibly can. I've worked really, really hard. I'm exhausted. I work 50 hours a week. I work on my days off. Like, I never had free time. It's time to go. So, of course, in those situations, dip, leave, go find something else. But make sure you're the type of person that can handle a job interview, can handle rejection, can handle all those things. And that's fine. But you still gotta, you've got to try to truck through it, because there's been times in other jobs where things are great. It's just a rough day, and that happens, and that's okay. But you just got to keep pushing, because you're doing the best you can. It's all you can give. Cool. You got to be cool with that.
Absolutely. And I think, like you said, there is a big difference between having a bad day and having like a situation where you're being taken advantage of. There's a
Right.
huge difference because like the company I was with before the one I'm with now, I I was working my way towards a management position, but I was doing everything and I hadn't got the management position. I might as well have been a manager, been getting management
I've
pay
been there.
because I'm doing everything under the sun that a manager would do. Sometimes my
Right.
manager would not show up. I got to do all of their work, and
Yep.
then I still didn't get it. And I was like, I'm not gonna like be used like this. And it's
Exactly.
like
Yeah.
because I was good at my job, they kept putting me on different
Yep.
call contracts.
Yep.
Like, oh, now you got to work this company's calls, this company's calls, that company's calls. Guess what? You're not gonna get a raise though.
Yep.
You know,
So I have a question based on that, because for me personally, I feel like when I was experiencing that, I was very early on in my transition, and I feel like I was I mean, obviously a very different person at that point than I am now. Um, but now I think the difference is that I am very vocal when it comes to myself and what I deserve and what I don't deserve. I'm very confident in that, and I don't hold back anymore. But when I was early on in transition, I feel like the confidence just wasn't there. So I wouldn't stand up for myself, and I was afraid of losing a job because I was trans, or not being able to get another job because I was trans. Because I was younger, I didn't really understand, uh, and so I didn't stand up for myself. And I'm curious if that resonates with you at all, or if that's like a shared experience, or if that's just me on my side.
I think I could see that being a thing. It's just I think for me, because we have we have a bit of difference in our transition time.
Sure,
So like for me, like I'm comfortable now because I think honestly, me being like out at my job was the best thing for me
sure,
because people
yeah,
seen the true me. They were like,
hmm,
oh wait, like you're so different than you were before. Like you were this closed off person. You did what you had to do, and that was it. Now like they just see me and like more of my personality, and
yeah,
I'm very open. Like I say, like, hey, look, this is messed up, because I go to bat for my people.
of
Like
course,
I'm a
of
team
course,
coordinator, so obviously I have a team of like I'm gonna guess here because I don't you know I'm not gonna count down everybody right
sure,
now, but I would say at least maybe 10, 15 people that I manage on a daily.
okay,
um, and if something like if they're having a bad day because their system is messing up or something like that, it's up to me to go fight and to tell IT or somebody
yep,
like, hey, look, they're struggling it out over here.
yep,
Y'all need to fix this because I'm not going to have my team stressing out, having a really tough day because you guys don't want to fix it. So that type of stuff, I'm not so like worried about saying
yeah,
anything.
sure,
And like right now, they're having like an issue right now. Most jobs have like a after call work.
hmm,
Like you have X amount of time once you get off the call to like before you get the next one.
right,
And right now, the system is messing up. They're getting like 3 minutes of time when they normally should get 15.
dang,
So I'm out there batting for them because the system is doing that. I think in some ways intentionally, but I don't think the upper people understand.
right.
So I talked to like 2 3 managers like at the very top, and we got some actual Airbnb is looking into it. So it's
That's
like
good.
that's what I will do for my people because it's
Right.
right. And I try to remember, what did it feel like when I was on calls? You know, I try to think of that. And I think me and you kind of shared the same way of how we manage. Because, like,
Yeah.
and I know some people like call it like millennial managers. They're the
Right.
managers who like they've had some really shitty managers, and so now they're like, you want a day off? Cool. Let me do my best to make sure it happens.
Yep. Yep.
Because we put ourselves in that position where we think like, what if that was me wanting a day off?
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like
Because at
it's
one point
not
it
like,
was.
oh well shit, I gotta like if I give this person a day off, now I gotta work, or I gotta step up more. We
Yep.
don't have that mindset,
Not at all.
because someday you're gonna need something and your boss is gonna have to do the exact same thing.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's like
Exactly.
let's think about that for a second and implement that with our people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. There's just something about getting to take care of people that I really enjoy about management positions. I think that's why I've always put myself in them. Like, obviously, the money, is nice sometimes, especially because life is expensive, so you got to make money. But getting to like be there for people and offer people a safe and fun work environment that I haven't always got to experience. It's like you said, we've had shitty managers, we've had shitty jobs, uh, things that were out of our control that we just couldn't do anything about. So when you are in that position to where you do have a little bit more say so, it's so nice to be able to get to speak up for people. It's also a little infuriating because it's like it was this easy for the people that I dealt with before to do this. What the hell, man? Like, why? But it's nice to give that back, I don't know. It's I've loved working in management, and I think that I want more trans people to realize you can have a position and you can get a job, you can do whatever. You just have to check yourself at the door. is the problem. Most of the people I see complaining about this are, the people that will claim that their job is firing them because they're trans or whatever, but then it comes out later that they were, really abrasive with a customer about using the correct pronouns or whatever it is. Like, yeah, that's probably going to lose you your job, And then if we're talking about getting jobs, if you go in and I'm sorry, but you look a certain way, you got a big, tall, blue mohawk with tons of face piercings and shit. Unless you're applying at Hot Topic, they're probably going to be a little weary of you. And that's just to be expected, But even me, I've got neck tattoos. I've got a septum piercing. I've got a hand tattoo. Like, I'm very, like, alternative looking. I can still get jobs. I've had dyed hair before and got jobs. So I just don't know. I'm tired of hearing excuses. Like, people just don't want to work anymore. We've gotten so lazy. Everything is so, like, instant nowadays, and we've gotten used to the luxury of that, and it's harmful. It's harmful. And honestly, we have so much other shit harming the community right now that we don't need to add anything else to it. Like the fact that you can't get a job and support yourself. Like, we're better than that. We should be better than that.
Absolutely, we should be, and I hope that people listening to this podcast, I also hope that even like if you're a cis woman or a cis man listening to the podcast, that you take some of the things we're saying and implement, because not all of this relates to just being trans.
No.
It just has to do with the little work ethic, doing what you need to do. If you have a bad day, call it as a bad day. If you're
Yep.
being taken advantage of, that's different, right? You got to look out for yourself in those situations. But there's a massive difference between the two. And I think you have to be able to have that ability to know the difference, because unfortunately, we're going to have multiple bad days.
Yep.
Hopefully, they're more spread out. So, it doesn't hit your mental as heavy.
Right.
But, regardless, they're going to happen. So, hopefully, like anyone for that matter, I would say especially trans people, because I see it worse for them.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, they're the ones being fear mongered into, well, you can never make it into management. So you might as well do as little as you can just to fly by, just so you don't lose your job or whatever, because you'll never make it in management. And look at this. We're two people who are in management, have worked it,
Yep.
and we're just fine. And I guess that kind of segments into the little video that I'm going to play
I'm
here.
so excited. I'm so excited.
I am too, but she told me this might make me cry, so let's I'm gonna really try to hold it together, because I
All right.
spent some time doing my makeup. So let's not cry, hopefully.
You got this. You got
But
this.
but yeah, I'm excited. So we'll go ahead
I
and
might
share
cry.
this here. Let's see. I think I'm gonna have to share my whole screen for this, so it might trip
Cool.
out a little bit, but that's okay. Here we go. Let me know if you can hear it. I'll play like 5 seconds.
My name is Katie, and I've had the privilege of working with Alyssa for the past...
Can you hear it?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, perfect.
7 months now. When I first came over to her team, I did not give her the time of day. I barely did my work. I missed a lot of work because I was in a state of depression. My previous TM and TC were let go from the company, and I had built really strong bonds with them. And so when they were let go, it was hard showing up for work. It was hard doing anything, wanting to work or be motivated to help people, because at the end of the day, great leadership makes great employees. After a few weeks, I finally told Alyssa that I was depressed, and I told her, I didn't want to be here. I told her that I didn't really want to work or anything like that, and I would literally look for any excuse to miss work. Instead of reporting me to the higher-ups, instead of writing me up or reprimanding me, she showed empathy, and she understood what I was going through. I think it's great for leaders to show that side of them, to show that it's okay because we all are human. So I do want to recognize the incredible strength and resilience that it takes for trans individuals to navigate the workplace. Because I know for far too long they've been discriminated against, they've been excluded, even though they're more than qualified. And I think that it's about recognizing talent, potential, and everything else, regardless of their gender identity. And Alyssa, she has proven over and over again that she's an amazing leader. She's an amazing TC, and she's really, she's worked her ass off to get there. And I hope that each and every day, she keeps going further and further to the top. And I hope that as our future continues, I hope that we can create more workplaces where everyone has the opportunity to succeed and lead, just like Alyssa.
That is so precious. That is
really
so
was.
precious. I love that. That is so cute. And honestly, like, I don't know, it's neat for me because obviously, we met on TikTok. We haven't met in person. We do all of this virtually. We play games and stuff together, but it's all been virtual, right? And so I don't really get to meet other people that know you or get to spend physical time with you. So to hear other people's take on you and that it is so similar to mine, it's nice. It's nice. It's reassuring to know that you're not just some crazy person that I've linked up with on the internet. But no, it's cute. And honestly, like that type of stuff where she's talking about being depressed and it being hard to come to work and there being valid reasons for it, a change in the workplace, something that regardless of what it is, it's human. It's very human. And I think that the way that you responded to that clearly is very impactful. And I think that's the thing about trans people working in management is that we come from a completely different perspective. And this is just having a trans person in your life at all that's level-headed. Good luck finding them. No, we're out there, we're just hiding, we're scared. Having a person like that in your life is pretty neat, honestly, and especially for a team of people because they know they're going to be taken care of, right? Because we've had to fear those things for so long, whether it be because of something we experienced, because of fear mongering, whatever it might be. We've probably experienced something close to that, and so to get to alleviate that for other people, it's really cool. It's nice to get to do that, and a lot of it I think comes from the fact that you and I do have very different perspectives, and it's not to say we haven't been discriminated against before in our lives. We have, so we don't want to do that to other people, and we want to give people the opportunity to feel safe and want to come to work. None of us would be at work if we didn't have to have a paycheck, right? None of us would go to work. We'd all be on a beach somewhere or in the mountains or doing whatever we want to do. And that's just not the case, unfortunately. So it's important to make those environments something that people want to go to, even though they kind of have to, regardless, right? So I think it's awesome that you've been able to provide that for people. I'm not surprised at all that your team loves you. It makes perfect sense to me. You're an absolute sweetheart. And I think it's cool that you get to be there for those people. You're clearly making an impact, and that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, that video almost got me.
It almost got me too.
Katie, I know you're watching out there. I really appreciate you. That moment that you spoke about where you stated, you were depressed. Alyssa was there for me. She didn't report me to the higher ups. I didn't really think about that too much because to me, it's like, that's just the right thing to do,
Right.
If
Yeah.
somebody's depressed and going through it, and maybe that's the reason why, certain things are happening. For me, I think I could recognize that. So I think that's why I didn't take further action. And I instead did choose the path of like showing empathy.
Yeah.
Like, I understand what you're going through. I'm not going to out you for it. I'm not going to tell nobody. I'm going to be here for you. Because that's something that I take a big passion in. Is like, if any of my team members are down, they know, hey, Alyssa, pull me into a breakout room. Me and you. Like, I'm going through it. And I really need someone. I want to know that somebody can confide that in me.
Yep.
And it's going to stay between me and them. And
Exactly.
it's really nice to hear that, that works. And, it's also appreciated. And, it's a very good thing to hear because like for me, I forgot about that because
Yeah.
like for me, it was such a simple thing to do that I wasn't holding it. Like, some people would be like, oh, I did this for you,
Right.
It wasn't that.
Right.
It wasn't like that for me. Like,
No,
I'm
just natural.
just doing the right thing, and it was so simple to do, so easy to do. And unfortunately, there is managers out there who would do the opposite.
I've had it happen. Yeah. Yeah, I've had some pretty shitty managers. And I think that's probably why you and I are the way we are, because we've had shitty managers and we've had people treat us like shit because of whatever reason. Doesn't matter what it is, trans things, not trans things, either way. So it's nice to kind of get to be the hero in your own story, and in somebody else's story too. That's I think nowadays we're trans people have been painted as we need handouts, we need help, we need support, and that's not to say that we don't, but all humans need that. It's not just a trans thing. And so it's nice to break that mold a little bit and do the exact opposite of what they're telling us that we need. I don't need anybody's support. I don't need, at least for being trans, right? Like I don't need help because I'm trans. Sometimes I need help because I'm a human, right? But I can still rise above shit and help people out and be nice and impact people in a positive way. And it's just nice to break that mold.
Absolutely. And the thing is that it works.
Yeah.
You heard her in the very beginning say, I didn't give Alyssa the time of day.
Yep.
I didn't. That's because I worked with her over and over.
Yeah, you
and
build
I
that
gained
relationship.
that level of support from her.
Yep.
Because it's a two-sided street, right? Like in management, sure, your job is to be there for your people. But at the same time, your people also have to, like, you have to give them enough in order for them to want to work with you.
Correct.
And to do the things that they need to do. And
Yep.
it was that's really as simple as it needed to be. I showed Katie that I was there for her when she needed it, and well, always, because that's what I do.
Right.
For anybody. And yeah, I mean, it's such a simple thing. So it's like, maybe if you're a trans person and you're working a job out there, it's so simple that maybe if you just work with your management, whatever, you go to work every day, you work really hard, and you do your thing, maybe you'll get there.
Yep.
They might think like a certain way about you, not because you're trans, but because of what you're
Sure.
doing currently. Those things
Exactly.
have an effect. And like we talked about earlier, people love to use that as like a reason to I don't know, to have that narrative, because maybe they do freak out when somebody calls you
Right.
he, if you're a trans woman,
Mhm.
or whatever, and you blow up at them. Well, if your manager's going to talk to you about it, that makes sense. Maybe you
Yeah.
shouldn't blow up on people.
Exactly.
Don't
It's
be
the
another Lily
accountability
Tino.
thing. Yeah, dude, please, for the love of God, don't be a Lily Tino. Oh my God. Oh my God. Don't even get me started on Lily Tino. I can't. She's got new shit that she's spewing. It's just a whole thing. But yeah, no, there's no reason, and a lot of it's that, again, we're not taking accountability. If somebody has to pull you aside, I think one thing I've learned in management a lot, and I think it's just helped me understand both sides of it, is that more than likely the person that's pulling you to have the conversation doesn't probably want to have the conversation either, but they need to have the conversation because it's something that needs to be fixed. Well, wouldn't you rather know that something you're doing isn't right so that you can fix it, so that you can be better? It's the same stuff they preach, right? Well, you should know that calling somebody the wrong pronouns is wrong. You should know that. Y'all got to have a conversation with them about that, right? But then when the tables turn and someone's got to have a conversation with you because you said something wrong, you did something wrong. No. I can't be wrong. Well, that's where you're failing, and you're going to continue to fail yourself. And with that mindset, you just don't go anywhere. And I think that's a lot of where this conversation comes from. Is I think it's easy to construe it as like we're assholes and we just want to talk our shit, but it's not that. It's more so like a call to action, and trying to get people to realize that if you continue that way, your life will remain miserable. Mine won't. I work hard. My life's not going to stay. So why else would I say that to you? It doesn't really affect me if you don't. I mean, it's bad representation, I guess, but I've been dealing with that already. We've all been dealing with that, and we're doing just fine. We're doing all right. So yeah, it's just hold yourself accountable. Be better for you, not even for anybody else, and like quit taking things so personal. Not everything's a personal attack. Sometimes it's just about growing. Sometimes the universe just sends you things to challenge you a little bit, and you've got to try your best to ace that test. And if you don't, evaluate, what did I do wrong? What mistakes did I make? And then fix those things moving forward. And the second you start applying that, it changes your entire life. It changes the entire course of everything. It brings you so much comfort, so much peace. And that's what we're trying to get people to realize here, especially trans people, because we can relate and we understand even the things we talk shit about. Like a lot of the things that I don't even want to say talk shit about it, that I hold accountability for, are things I used to do. I was so liberal, like so incredibly liberal is crazy. It is so weird to think about where I am now and where I stand on things. And I realize all of the things that I did wrong. And that's what I'm calling out on other people, because I've been there. I have a leg to stand on. I know that it's wrong because I did it. So hopefully this at least touches someone, and helps somebody get on the right path, because I think everybody deserves to live a life that they're happy with and that they're comfortable with. And you shouldn't have to live paycheck to paycheck. And unfortunately, you kind of got to work really hard to get to a spot where you don't have to do that. So do it, Don't let nobody hold you down. Don't let nobody tell you can't, including you. Don't let you tell you can't, because that's just real sad. That's real. You got to have your back, okay? I don't know. That's my TED Talk. Thanks for coming.
Absolutely. One thing that I want to talk about here also, because it's on my mind now that we're talking about the whole job side of things, is we have to quit lashing out immediately if things don't go our way, especially when it relates to trans issues, because I'm going to give a perfect example. So I got my name changed probably a year ago, roughly a year ago at this point. It took forever for them to update my work documents, and at some points I was starting to think like, you know, are they even actually interested in changing my work documents?
Right.
Because it felt like that, because it was, months and months. It probably took me 3 months before, like it took me 3 months to get my name changed and gender marker changed.
Yeah.
It took
It's a
that amount of
process.
time just to have things worked out at my job for my name. I could have easily lashed out, been like, hey, why don't you guys want to accept this? This is ridiculous. I didn't. I stayed patient.
Yep.
I would ask them normally, like, hey, I'm just kind of curious, like it's been a few weeks. I haven't seen any change. I was just kind of curious on what's going on with the process.
Yep.
I laid it to the process. I didn't blow up at nobody.
Yep.
I very well could have,
Sure.
but I didn't. And it worked in my favor. Because
It usually
once
does.
I had that approach, it started to move a little quicker.
Yep.
And yeah, and I think that's what we have to do, because I hear it all the time, because I'm in a couple Facebook groups where I hear people talking about like, oh, this company is, taking forever with my name, they're, doing this, they're doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, check your attitude first and how you're responding to it. That's going to play a big role in how that goes moving forward. And I had to mention that because I've been through that, but I didn't take the crazy route of blowing up. So
Yeah, of
I
course.
had to mention it.
I mean, yeah, it's if you've ever worked a job and you've had a customer that comes in and they are just overtly shitty to you, do you really want to help them? Of course not. They're an asshole. I'm actually gonna do everything I can to make this harder for you, is what I'm gonna do, because you want to come in and treat me like shit and lash out at me, and I haven't personally done anything to you. So cool, we two can play at that game, and that's typically how that goes. That is a very uh, natural response to that as a human. So of course, you're gonna attract more flies with honey than you are vinegar. That's how the saying goes, and it's very true. Nobody wants to work with you when you're being a shithead. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to do anything for you, because what's the payoff? But when you're sweet and you're nice and you're professional and you're chill about things, people tend to be okay with helping you out with whatever you need. A lot of the times it's, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't see that I missed this. Or sometimes it's just a human error. And now you've just jumped down this person's throat, and who knows what they've been going through? Who knows why they missed it? The same thing that your employee had said, I wasn't showing up, I wasn't doing things, but it's because there was an underlying issue. That is the same with every person. We seem to only think that that's valid when it applies to us, and we don't think about other people going through shit. You got to be mindful of that. And when you scream at someone because they called you the wrong thing or things didn't go according to plan, like, it's really just more telling of who you are, and it's not going to get you very far. So I think that's a great call out. That is a fantastic call out. Also, I'm very sorry that my mic is dancing. I have a very sleepy, big, fluffy dog down here who keeps adjusting and kicking everything around. So I apologize for the distraction.
Oh, you're totally fine. But yeah, I mean, I had to bring that up because, I hear about it all the time. And, realistically, that's what it was, is there was somebody through the chain of the process who hadn't seen it, I think they were out for a week.
Yep.
So sure, that kind of plays a role in why it took a week longer than I thought it would, and because I just had a general question about it,
Yep.
it started to work out. So, I definitely think it's all about your attitude. And another thing too is, like, we're talking about customers and how their reactions to us, can play a big role in our reaction to that. I've taken supervisor calls before. I do my best with my voice, right? But it's not always great, and that's fine.
Sure.
It's a matter of the process. It's not easy. Because you have to constantly work at it.
Right.
Either way, I'm going to tell a story. We're gonna not name this person, obviously, because I don't want to get in a situation here. But there was a call that I had made. There were two calls because I called one day and I had to call back the second day. So we'll move on to the second day really quick so you'll understand how the first call kind of takes into the story. So the second day, I had to call this guy, and I had to give him bad news. And I told him, I was like, look, this is everything I did for you to try to lead it the way you would want, resolution-wise. But unfortunately, we've exhausted all our resources, and that's about all we can do is this, And immediately, because he was nice to me until I gave him the outcome of everything. He was like, well, I just want to tell you, yesterday you sounded like a California woman. Today you sound like a Thailand man. And I was like, okay. I told him on the phone, and I was like, I just want to ask you a question, sir. Are we talking about your resolution, or are we talking about my voice? Because I'm talking to you about, the process of
right,
getting
what I'm
to
trying
where
to
you
do
want.
for you.
We're not here to talk about my voice. That's, excluded from all of this. And I kept it at that. And he was like, well, whatever. I'm just letting you know my thoughts. It's like, totally fine. But what we're not going to do is we're not going to talk about something that has nothing to do with the original conversation, which is, you want this. I'm explaining to you what we did to try to get that. And then 3, why we can't, unfortunately.
And that's all you can do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he was upset that he didn't get the rise that he wanted, because they're used to being able to get the rise out of people. I think that's why it's important that we do things like that, and we don't let that type of shit get to us. Like, it's just not that important. And truly, it's so much more impactful on the person that is being shitty to not stoop to their level and not give them what they want. Because, oh God, it drives them crazy. Oh, it drives them nuts. And it's my favorite thing. I absolutely love it. I love playing that game because I'll win every single time. I don't give a shit. And exactly what you were saying, like, we're not talking about my voice. So why does it, what relevancy does that even have to the conversations besides you being an asshole? Like, you just told on yourself. Like, that's silly. Move on next. Like, I'm here to do a job. I'm getting paid hourly, okay? Like, it's just, piss off, right? That's so silly, man. I cannot believe that some people act like that. And it's the same thing. It's to show, like, it's not just a trans person thing. Cis people do it also. They also do that thing where, like, oh, things aren't going my way, so I'm going to blow up and act like a shithead, and then I'm not going to get the, thing that I wanted, and now I'm even more upset. Yeah, because you did that. You upset yourself, sweetheart. It's crazy.
Absolutely.
Crazy.
And yeah, it's all about my reaction, because when I said, sir, we're not going to talk about my voice, has nothing to do with your initial
Said,
request.
sit down, be humble.
Yeah, that's exactly what I did. And he kind of got quiet for a second. It was like, well, um, I just had to let you know. Okay.
You just had to. I just had to.
Okay.
Oh, I just had to. It was just eating me up. Shut up, boomer.
I know. But yeah, because I could have easily went off. Like,
Sure.
I care about my job, so I didn't, right?
Right.
But
Which, I mean, we can go off
and
now.
also, well, yeah. Well, I mean, for me, I took it kind of as a positive because all in one, you're still kind of telling me I sound like a woman because he said the day before you sounded like a California woman. Okay, Valley girl or not, you still telling me I sounded like a woman.
Exactly.
Okay, and then the second you're saying I sound like a Thailand man, basically calling me a lady boy.
Which
well,
is
lady
still
boys
in
still
the
sound
field.
like women most of the time.
Still in the field. You thought
Exactly.
you ate. You did not. Starve.
You did not. Start over, try again. But I think it's kind of funny, like at least I can laugh about it.
Exactly.
A lot of people in our
Yes.
community can't. They get so offended and they're like, but you shouldn't do that. Like, that affects me. Okay, well, I didn't let it affect me. That's what he wanted to do.
Exactly.
I didn't allow him that.
Correct. That's what this back and forth thing of people giving into that on both ends. That's how we get these like absolutely insane like Facebook comment wars that are just off the wall. There's no relevancy anymore. Now we're just attacking each other's looks and shit. That's because that's what happens when you get two weak people into an argument with each other. That's weak-minded bullshit. You don't have to rise above that shit. That's so silly. You don't have to do that. Laugh it off and let it go. Like, how are you not entertained by that? How is that not absolutely hilarious to people? I don't get how that's not funny to you. Like, and I mean, obviously, like, if I thought you were a little more sensitive to the situation, I might be a little different about it. But because I know you're a fairly resilient bitch, right? Like, you bad bitch. I know it. So it's just like, what? like, bro, what are you talking about? Like, you really, that's your response? I'm trying to fix a refund for you or whatever it might be. Has nothing to do with that. And you're worried about my voice. You just had to tell me that my voice sounds okay. Sure, whatever, dude. Like, I don't know, free entertainment, I guess, which is cool. That just blows my
I
mind.
went straight to my team and I was like, y'all gotta hear this. They're like, what's up, Alyssa? And I was like, well, that supervisor call I went to take, this is what happened. Everyone was like, oh, that's terrible. And I was like, I mean, it was funny. It was funny. And they're like, well, at least you had that take. Like, my team was there with me on that too. They were like, well, at least you didn't get upset or whatever. And you're just laughing about it. I was like, yeah, I think it's funny. It's like, California girl, Thailand man, doesn't matter to me. I'm laughing at it. I think it's funny.
Honestly, trans jokes are kind of my favorite, truth be told.
They really are.
And it's because I get it. And sometimes it's just nice to laugh at it, so that you don't have to take it so seriously. Because if we took every ounce of this seriously at all times, clearly we've seen from proof on the internet, we'd be miserable pieces of shit. And no thanks. I don't want to be like the guy on the other side of the phone that feels that he has to say shitty things to people to make himself feel better. I don't want to be like that. That's absolutely absurd. I don't want to be that kind of person. I know that I'm not that kind of person. So I'm not going to take it seriously. I'm going to laugh at shit. I think it's funny. Sue me. It is what it is.
Yeah. I think the day that more trans people can start to laugh at those things, the more, I don't know, it'll bring like a different happiness or a comfortability within yourself. Because I think you have to be comfortable in order for you to take those jokes.
Very much
and
so.
Like, both of us are comfortable. Like, I'm still only a year into my transition and I'm comfortable. Like, I'm comfortable with myself. I'm doing my best. I'm doing everything I can. Most people a year in their transition can't say that.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's because you've worked for it. And you know that you're working for it. You know your intentions. You know that this is who you are truly. And that shows. And I think that's where all of this frustration comes from in the trans community, is that whole thing right there. Is that it's very easy to tell who is actually trans and who is not actually trans. And I know a lot of people might have some thoughts about that take. I don't give a shit. I'm trans. I get to talk about it. I get to say it. Sorry, but I'm not sorry. That just is what it is. Like, that's why, like, you can tell in a person's energy because, like you said, even being just a year in, you're still confident enough to just present how you need to. I was the same way, you know. I was on a live on TikTok yesterday, day before, something like that, and we were talking about it. And I was like, you know, in the beginning of my transition, I still looked fairly feminine. You know, I wasn't growing facial hair yet. My voice hadn't completely dropped to where it's at now. And I lived in a house with two other cis dudes, and for the longest time, and we were good friends, not just roommates. Like, we went out and partied together, like, often, and went on trips together and would go to music festivals and all sorts of stuff. Like, these are my homies. They're still some of my best friends in the world. And for the first year or so, they didn't even know. I didn't talk about it. I didn't make it this big fucking spectacle. I just showed up and I was like, I'm a dude. And they were like, cool, got it. Didn't even bat an eye. And when my buddy found out, he was like, I'm just like, he's like, I'm stunned. Like, I am incredibly surprised. He's like, it makes certain things kind of make sense over the past year, you know? He's like, I'm just sad that you like didn't feel safe enough to tell me. And like, not that I'm mad at you. It's just like, it sucks that's your experience, you know? And that you didn't feel safe enough to tell me, not because you don't trust me, but because, you know, you just never know. You know, I was like, well, yeah, you know, I've lost family and stuff, and I really like you guys. And it's kind of nice to just be a trans dude that has two cis dude friends that are just his homie, and they don't even know that he's trans, and they don't care that he's trans. It almost kind of sounds like a sitcom. I should pitch this somewhere. Fox, somebody, Hulu, Netflix, pick me up. Hello, here I am. But no, it was nice, and it's like, I don't know. I don't understand the holding on to it so much, and the I don't know, even being early on, I just didn't care. Like, I just knew that's who I was, and I was just so happy to be finally even in the process that I finally, for the first time, felt some sort of sense of myself. And I was cool with that, and I've been cool with that ever since, and I think it makes it very easy to differentiate the reals from the fakes, for sure.
Absolutely. And, you know, I think that's what plays a big role into that. I'd be a totally different person if I wouldn't able to find my confidence or know that this was the right path for me and this is what I need to do and this is the effort that I need to put in to do all of this.
Yep.
You know, it could have went much different, but I'm happy as hell.
Yeah.
Like, I know I still have some progressions. That's okay.
Right.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
we all do. We all do. Trans or not.
Like, even I was about to say, like, even if you're not trans, people still work on them on themselves. I don't think a lot of people realize that, like, even like cis people do like things to affirm their gender.
Yes.
Like, they maybe, you know, like, I mean,
hair plugs,
like all kinds of stuff.
breast
Like,
augmentations.
Yes, all of those things.
Facelifts.
It's not exclusionary to trans people.
Nope.
It's
It never
just
has
that
been.
we are doing something that is a bit like, it's a huge jump.
It's the opposite of what you would
I'm going to go
expect.
get this thing or that thing, you know?
Mhm.
It's just a bigger jump. But either way, we both experience it. You know, maybe they don't see both sides of it, but they're still doing things to feel more comfortable within their self.
Correct. Yep, I agree.
But yeah, I think hopefully people watching the podcast or listening, you know, hopefully hearing about, you know, whether you're trans or not, you know, hopefully you're able to gather something from this podcast. Especially, I want to give another shout out to Katie. Thank you, Katie, for providing the video. I really appreciate it. You know, I hope that, you know, showed people, like, you know, just being there and being thoughtful and caring as a manager can definitely help you as well as your teammates and things like that. It definitely did in this scenario. So yeah, you know, hopefully you enjoyed the podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, give it a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed the content. If you're watching watching or listening, because Spotify does have the video side of things, go ahead and rate the show. We would really appreciate it. Definitely leave a comment on what you thought about the episode. What do you want to see next? Would you like to see live podcast in the future? Definitely let us know. We'll try to make it happen. But with that, I guess we'll close it out.
Hell yeah. Everybody have a good one. We'll see you next time.